If your webcam light ever turns on before you touch your laptop, don't check the camera. Check what's looking back. If you've ever seen that tiny indicator glow while your laptop was still closed, stop calling it a glitch. I used to laugh at hacked webcam stories and paranoid forum posts. Then one night my webcam activated before I even opened the lid. I still can't explain how. Please don't rewind the moment when the light first appears. That's the first time it noticed me. There are screenshots I still refuse to upload. Technology should obey physical rules. Tonight it doesn't. Everything began with what should have been an ordinary software update, and I wish I had ignored it completely that night, because every answer only created worse questions waiting behind the next blinking light. My apartment felt ordinary that night. Rain tapped softly against the windows while I finished a late-night college assignment with a mug of coffee cooling beside my laptop. Nothing felt unusual. I installed a routine system update, watched the progress bar crawl, and answered a text from my mom. Still awake? I replied, almost done. Seconds later, my friend messaged, gaming tonight? I smiled and typed, maybe tomorrow. The update finished, the laptop shut down, and I closed the lid. I walked into the kitchen for a refill. 5 minutes later, I noticed a pale glow stretching across the dark room. The webcam light was on. The laptop was still closed. I laughed under my breath. Maybe residual power. Maybe Windows doing something strange. Maybe nothing. Then the light blinked 3 times. It stopped. Silence settled over everything. 3 more blinks. My stomach tightened. I grabbed my phone and called my friend. You're paranoid, he said. Tell me webcams can't turn on while closed? I answered. A long pause filled the line. They can't, he whispered. I stared across the room without moving. The apartment still felt safe, familiar, and warm, yet one impossible detail had quietly rewritten every comforting assumption I believed. I should have unplugged it right then. Instead, I kept watching, waiting for another blink that never came. Somehow that silence frightened me more than any noise possibly could have. It felt patient, almost expectant already. But curiosity always wins the first round. My hands shook as I carried the laptop back to my desk. The webcam light went dark the instant my fingers touched the lid, almost like it knew I'd finally noticed. I opened it, expecting the usual login screen. Instead, the desktop was already waiting for me. No password prompt. No startup animation. No open applications. Just the webcam software sitting in the center of the screen as though it had always been there. The recording timer read 17 minutes and 42 seconds. I stared at it, trying to make sense of impossible numbers. That timer meant the camera had been recording for over 17 minutes before I had even opened the laptop. I clicked play. At first, the recording showed nothing except complete darkness. Rain hissed through the microphone, matching the storm outside my window. The image remained black because the lid had supposedly been closed the entire time. Then something shifted. A faint outline appeared. Someone, or something, was standing behind the laptop. My pulse hammered against my ribs. The lid never opened. There was no angle from which the camera should have seen the room. The video glitched violently. For a single frame, 2 pale eyes stared directly into the lens. The file corrupted. The player froze. So did I? Unable to convince myself I had imagined it, I called my friend on Discord and shared my screen. He joked for a few seconds, then fell completely silent. His breathing became the only sound between us. Finally, he whispered, "Pause." I paused the video. The player turned black. Only then did I notice the reflection. It wasn't my room. The walls were different. The furniture wasn't mine. Someone was sitting in my chair, facing the screen, watching me. The Discord call disconnected without warning. I called back. No answer. I messaged him repeatedly. Nothing. Hours later, I searched every corner of the internet until I found scattered forum posts about something users called pre-boot recordings. Every thread ended the same way: deleted accounts, missing images, broken links. The same webcam model appeared again and again. This wasn't the first case, just the first one that made sense. I found dozens of people describing the same thing. Most deleted their accounts the next day. They all mentioned the same rule. The archived posts felt less like forum discussions and more like desperate confessions. Different usernames, different countries, different years, yet every survivor listed the exact same rules. Never cover the webcam. Never watch the recordings after midnight. Never pause the footage. Never speak to anyone who appears inside the reflection. And if the recording ever starts by itself, leave the room immediately. I actually laughed when I finished reading them. It sounded like another internet ghost story stitched together from recycled creepypasta cliches. So I did exactly what every warning told me not to do. Just after midnight, I replayed the corrupted file. Halfway through the darkness, someone whispered my name. Not through the speakers. Behind me. Before I could turn around, my laptop microphone icon lit up by itself. The webcam clicked softly. Then, impossibly, the camera shifted a few degrees, as though an invisible hand had adjusted its angle. I stared at my reflection, waiting for it to copy me. Instead, it smiled first. My face never moved. The recording timer stopped climbing and began counting backward toward 0. A cold voice drifted from the speakers, calm enough to sound almost familiar. We've been watching longer than you've been recording. Every ridiculous rule suddenly felt painfully reasonable. The archived posts mentioned an unnamed organization that erased evidence before stories spread too far. Entire threads disappeared overnight. People claimed investigators collected laptops from homes where owners vanished without explanation, always involving the same webcam model. Then I noticed one sentence repeated across dozens of surviving posts. There was one final rule nobody ever explained. Nobody described what happened after breaking it. Nobody lived long enough to update their story. I didn't understand why until exactly 3:07 a.m. At exactly 3:07 a.m., every light in my apartment died. The refrigerator fell silent. The rain vanished beneath an impossible stillness. Only my laptop remained powered, its webcam indicator burning brighter than I had ever seen, flooding the room with a cold white glow. The screen showed me sitting exactly where I was. Then it stopped copying me. My reflection lifted one hand and waved before I moved a muscle. It slowly raised a finger and pointed behind me. My phone vibrated across the desk. One message. Unknown sender. Don't turn around. Of course I did. There was nobody standing behind my chair. No footsteps. No breathing. Nothing. When I faced the laptop again, the version of me on the screen had disappeared. The recording ended with a soft click. The timer rested at midnight as though it had finally finished collecting whatever it needed. My desktop wallpaper had changed to a photograph of my empty chair. A new folder waited beneath it. Final_recording. Inside was nothing except a single text file. I opened it. One sentence filled the page. Next time, open the lid faster. The police arrived before sunrise after neighbors reported hearing two people arguing inside my apartment for nearly an hour. They searched every room twice before one officer looked at me strangely. "Sir," he asked quietly, "who was the second voice?" I told him the truth. I lived alone. Nothing visible remained when they left. Everything had changed anyway. I wish that had been the end. It wasn't. Months later, I bought a new laptop without a webcam. Problem solved. Or so I believed. One night, my external monitor reflected someone raising a hand. My phone camera activated by itself. That's when I understood. It was never inside the webcam. The webcam was only the first way it learned to watch. If your webcam light ever turns on before you open your laptop, leave a comment, but don't include today's date. If you know why, then you've seen the same recording. This is only case number 1 because every story reveals another hidden rule. If your webcam turns on tonight, don't be the one who looks back first.